actually, I'm pregnant with your husband's child. He chose me over you because you can't have children. And even his parents agree with his decision. Hearing that my husband owned several luxury condos, my best friend seduced him behind my back and stole him from me. I was furiously angry with her and my husband for betraying me while I was desperately trying to conceive. However, my husband clearly stated to me, despite being flustered, "I want to be with her because she can have children, not you who can't." I was shocked and devastated by his cruel words. Moreover, unbelievably, his parents seemed to accept his affair because they were excited about having a grandchild. To them, I was a useless wife who couldn't bear children, and my best friend was a capable woman who could. This realization crushed me and plunged me into despair. No one is on your side. He chose me, and all his luxury condos are mine. Now, just divorce him quietly. She gloated, but I realized she was making a crucial mistake. Using this, I began to plot my revenge. My name is Jenny. I am a 34-year-old office worker at a real estate company, living in a luxury condo with my husband, Eric. Eric is kind, but his indecisiveness and unreliability worried me before we got married. However, I decided to go through with the marriage, believing I could compensate for his shortcomings. We've been happily married for 3 years. Since the beginning of our marriage, we have wanted children. Yet, despite our efforts, we haven't been successful. And the pressure to conceive has been mounting, especially as I am getting older. I get along with Eric's parents, but they constantly ask us about grandchildren whenever we meet, which has become a source of stress, and lately, I've been avoiding them. Perhaps it was the stress and exhaustion from work, but one day, I was involved in a traffic accident. Fortunately, I survived without life-threatening injuries. But I fractured my arm and had several bruises, leading to a month-long hospitalization. Unable to work on my computer with one arm, I quickly got bored in the hospital. I wanted to get out as soon as possible. There's so much I need to do, both work and trying to conceive. Eric smiled gently at me, who was in a panic. Take this time to rest. I know you're anxious, but you've been so busy with work lately, you need some rest. His words soothed my frazzled nerves. Eric always had a way of seeing things I couldn't, taking great care of me despite my inability to use my arm. His such behavior made me think once again that it was good to have married him. However, the hospital stay was dull, and a visit from my best friend was a welcome distraction. I'm not sure if I can say it's just a fracture, but I'm really glad you're okay. Thanks for coming. Sorry to worry you. Really. When I heard from you after so long, I was shocked you were in the hospital and bored, needing help. We had been close friends since high school, and even as adults. We stayed in touch and went out together. As we age, it's rare to have friends with whom you can joke freely. And I value her presence immensely. Maybe it was the relaxed chatting, but I began to feel sleepy. Oh, feeling sleepy? I'll go grab lunch outside, so you get some rest. I will. Thank you for coming all this way. Don't worry about it. I'll be back soon. After she left the room and the door closed, I let go of consciousness. How long had I slept? I heard voices and woke up suddenly. Wow. So, the luxury condo where you two live belongs to you? Yes. We live there, but I own several others too. Wow, you're rich. As I turned towards the voices, I saw my best friend and husband chatting. Unbeknownst to me, she had returned, and Eric had come to visit. Oh, Jenny's awake? Good morning, your husband is here. I stretched to shake off the sleepiness and apologized for being asleep, teasing Eric in the process. What's up? You seem to be having a fun chat. What were you talking about? Well, just a casual chat, right? Right. Nothing for you to worry about, relax. Eric seemed slightly flustered, but my best friend was laughing as usual. So I thought it was nothing and enjoyed chatting with them both. Looking back, I wonder if things would have been different if I had pressed him for answers then. After the day of her visit, I began to notice that something was off with Eric. Our conversations lacked eye contact, and his responses were distracted, making his attitude towards me feel distant. The time he spent in the hospital room became shorter, and he stopped helping with meals and dressing, which he used to do before. Your arm should be better now. Moving a bit might help with rehabilitation. I'm going to head home now. Eric's changed attitude was clearly different from before, leaving me feeling uneasy. However, I couldn't pinpoint the cause, and I was left feeling confused until the day I was discharged. The irregular situation of my hospitalization might have stressed Eric too. I believed that once I was discharged and able to live normally, we could return to our usual happy life. That belief kept me going as I left the hospital to return to everyday life. However, even a few days after my discharge, Eric's demeanor remained distant and formal. At my in-laws' house, which I visited for an errand, I was met with cold shoulders from them as well. Oh, you're discharged already? You should have stayed in the hospital longer. Her words seemed to treat me as if I was an unwanted presence. An attitude that felt oddly unnatural towards a daughter-in-law who had just been injured in a traffic accident. Even when leaving after finishing my errands, where previously they would ask me to stay a bit longer, this time they simply turned away with a quick okay. Bye. What had suddenly changed with my husband and in-laws? With no clear reason for their changed behavior. And since asking them directly only led to evasive answers, I was left in a state of limbo, feeling unresolved day after day. My suspicions were horribly confirmed one day. Jenny, sorry it's late, but congrats on your discharge. The friend who had visited me in the hospital came to visit me at home in the luxury condo. Though she spoke words celebrating my discharge, something about her demeanor was off. She smirked in a way that seemed like she was plotting something, occasionally casting meaningful glances at my husband. Eric, receiving her looks, appeared restless and uneasy. Sensing something unpleasant, I confronted her. Hey, are you keeping something from me? With an even deeper smirk, my best friend revealed something totally unexpected. Actually, I'm pregnant with Eric's child. So, Jenny, I hate to say it, but could you divorce him? What? Stunned by the shocking news, I was left speechless. She gleefully began to explain the details. It turned out she had fancied my husband for some time. She seized the opportunity when I was immobile in the hospital to make a strong appeal to my husband. Succumbing to her advances, Eric began an affair with her, and she ended up pregnant. What the heck? Betraying your wife and even having a child with someone else, what were you thinking? I was furious not just with her for seducing my husband but even more so with his betrayal. Especially while I was desperately trying to conceive. Was having a child with anyone all that mattered to him? Glaring at him with all my frustration, he responded, albeit flustered but clearly. Since you couldn't get pregnant no matter how long we waited, I thought maybe we were not meant to be. If you can't have children, I want to be with someone who can. Devastated by his rationale, I was shocked. While he looked somewhat remorseful and my best friend smugly observed. Then, she added something even more shocking. That's right. Even his parents are on our side. They were thrilled to finally see a grandchild. Apparently, the in-laws had accepted his affair because they were getting a grandchild. To them, having a grandchild was more important than fidelity. In their eyes, I was the incapable wife who could not bear children. While my friend, the mistress, was the capable woman who could. This notion from my in-laws shattered me, plunging me into the depths of despair. What was the point of all the time I had spent with my husband? Was I the only one who thought I had a good relationship with my in-laws? Was being unable to conceive really such a terrible thing? I too wanted children, which is why I was tirelessly trying to conceive. Various thoughts swirled in my mind, and I struggled just to keep from collapsing. Then, she twisted the knife further. No one is on your side. Eric is mine. And all of his luxury condos are mine, too. As I despaired over their betrayal, her words caught my attention. Eric and his luxury condos are all yours? Yes, that's right. From now on, I'll be living luxuriously with him instead of you. So, you're no longer needed, just divorce Eric, please. Internally smirking at her misunderstanding, I decided to use this to my advantage and enact my revenge. Watching her laugh boisterously and him standing silently, I resolved. All right. I'll grant your wish and divorce Eric. In exchange, I'll be claiming a hefty alimony. She beamed at my statement. I'll pay any amount in alimony. After all, I have Eric's assets. Satisfied that she had convinced me to divorce, she laughed heartily. And my husband appeared relieved. Unable to bear sharing the space with them any longer, I immediately packed my things and left the home. Several days later, I hired a lawyer well-versed in divorce issues and visited my former in-laws' home, where my ex-husband, best friend, and in-laws were gathered to discuss the divorce proceedings and alimony. As my friend ushered us into the living room, she began the conversation with a pitiful comment towards me. Abandoned by Eric and even deserted by his parents, you really are pitiful, aren't you? Out of pity, I'll give you one of his luxury condos as a part of alimony. You can live in it all alone or sell it for money, do whatever you like. She smirked condescendingly as she spoke, but the next moment, my lawyer burst out laughing. What are you talking about, his luxury condos? He doesn't own any luxury condos at all. My friend and in-laws looked puzzled by his remark, while Eric's face turned pale and he looked down. What are you saying? Eric owns several luxury condos. No, all those properties are actually owned by Jenny. Her ex-husband only manages them through his role at the real estate management company. He does not own them. Indeed, the luxury condos that Eric claimed to own were all mine. He only handled the management and maintenance of these properties because of his job at the real estate management company. What? Wait a minute, Eric. This isn't what you told me. What's going on? Well, this is. Flustered by the lawyer's explanation, she aggressively questioned him and Eric just stammered. Both she and the in-laws looked desperate. But then, seemingly struck by a realization, she exclaimed loudly. Oh, that's right. Even if you own the luxury condos now, I'll get half of them in the divorce settlement anyway. Oh, I worried for nothing. She said that, laughing confidently again, and my in-laws looked relieved, but I cut them off sharply. Unfortunately for you, the luxury condos I own are not subject to division in the divorce. They've been mine since before the marriage. Hearing this, their faces turned ashen, speechless. Originally, those luxury condos were owned by my uncle. During my single years, I learned about investing from my uncle, who was an investor. Part of my training involved him transferring some of his luxury condos to me. Although I paid the inheritance tax at that time, I managed the properties myself under my uncle's guidance, making a profit. After getting married, I continued to manage them under my own name. Apparently, Eric, my ex-husband, had falsely bragged that the luxury condos were his. But in reality, they were solely mine. Stop joking around. Why did you keep such an important thing a secret? My best friend, face now turning from pale to red in anger, lashed out at Eric. He, on the other hand, was sweating profusely and pale as could be. I was planning to get the rights to the luxury condos from Jenny soon. But, I was thinking about it and just couldn't find the right moment to bring it up. But you haven't gotten them yet, you liar. Until now, Eric had never approached me about transferring the luxury condos. Indecisive and unable to make decisions, he preferred to lie rather than face the truth. I couldn't help but think, what a pathetic man I had married. As she continued to rant and Eric remained silent, just looking down, I added insult to injury. By the way, about the Riverside Tower that you've been managing. I heard from the Management Association. You've been neglecting the leaks throughout the building. And trying to cover them up without making repairs? Eric looked up sharply at my words. How did you know about that? Shocked that I knew, he looked at me in disbelief. I sighed with exasperation. Of course, I would know. I'm the owner of that luxury condo. Why on earth did you think you could hide such a major issue? I frowned, saying that I had a hard time understanding. And Eric looked at me with a pitifully frightened expression. My in-laws, who had been silent until then, asked him, is it true, but he couldn't speak smoothly. I decided to put an end to it, thinking that it was a waste of time to deal with their interactions. Anyway. If you can't even manage safety measures for a property and fail to report to the owner, I can't trust your company with my valuable assets. So, I'm terminating our management contract. That includes the other properties as well. As I declared this, Eric's face fell in shock, and he crumbled to the ground. I looked coldly at him, who didn't seem to have the energy to argue or lash out. I'm sure he will soon be held accountable for the huge losses he has made. Within the property management company he works for. An ex-husband and best friend who are completely speechless and appalled. This time, my in-laws raised their voices in a panicked manner. Jenny, please forgive us. Eric was wrong. We apologize. Please reconsider and give him another chance. Caught off guard by the sudden change in her tone, I was not the only one stunned. The best friend, who had been out of it till now, snapped back to reality and retorted. What are you saying, mother? Weren't you supporting our marriage? She yelled, and my mother-in-law raised her voice too. Be quiet. If that woman abandons us now, Eric will be penniless. Don't you understand that? What? That's a completely different issue. I'm the one who is pregnant with his child. Even if you are blessed with a child, it means nothing if you can't raise it. I decided it was a waste of time to engage in such a fruitless argument. I only had one thing to say before I left. I have no intention of reconciling with Eric. As initially planned, I will proceed with the divorce. Expect a proper sum for alimony later. With that, I left the in-laws' house with my lawyer. Through the lawyer, my divorce with Eric was finalized. And I successfully got alimony from my ex-husband. As I had predicted, Eric was dismissed for a major safety management failure. And for losing multiple property management contracts. Furthermore, all the money he received from our property settlement was used to pay off the debts incurred by my best friend. Apparently, relying on Eric's income. She had accrued a significant amount of debt by splurging on luxury brands. With no job and the temporary income from the property division spent, they couldn't afford the rent for their luxury condo and were evicted within a few months. They moved from the luxury condo to a cheap apartment. But it seems that the debts she had incurred were too large to be covered. by the money from the property division. Eric is now working tirelessly day and night to pay off these debts, dipping into his savings. As for me, I started dating a man I met through a friend. Unlike my ex-husband, he is a reliable man with firm personal convictions. Considering our ages, we are dating with marriage in mind. But I plan to approach the matter carefully.